Melanie here in Extreme Couture, being joined by the one and only, a man who needs no introduction, Mr. Jake Shields. Always great to see you. And how did coaching go today?
Good, yeah. Just got done coaching. I was just watching some of the guys spar, so I didn't work out this session, but it was good. I got a lot of guys fighting, and everyone's looking good. Always a ton of guys at Extreme Couture, so sometimes it's hard coaching. So many different guys sparring at once, kind of running around trying to catch up with what's going on.
Yeah, it's always so busy in here, and so many guys have upcoming fights, right?
Yeah. I got Patchy has a really big fight coming up. A bunch of other guys I'm working with smaller fights. Bisha, I trained with her a little bit. She just signed another fight, so it's always busy in here. That's when I'm used to coming from a lot smaller gyms where less guys, but here so many people. So someone's always got a fight.
Yes, absolutely. And speaking of fights, I just came back from Cleveland. The Tyron Woodley, someone that you fought and have a win over, he fought or boxed Jake Paul. Did you happen to catch that?
Yeah, I did. It was a decent fight. Not the most action-packed, but it wasn't bad. It was a close fight. I think, I agreed with the decision. I had Paul winning. I think it was like 5-3. It was, close fight. Woodley, he had a few good moments, but just never quite went for the kill. It looked like he was to turn it around, had him rocked bad. It was like, oh, he's coming back and knock him out, but then he kind of pulled back and let Paul kind of take back over.
Yeah, well, when you try to, I guess, put yourself in his mindset, what do you think it is that causes him to not kind of pull the trigger?
Well, I think it's tough. He's a little older, like 39. He's already been successful. He's had a lot of years fighting, a lot of years, wrestling. Sometimes you've been in the sport that long, you've maybe lost the desire and the hunger. I think physically he's still got it. He's so explosive. He's got the power. He didn't look gassed. I think it's maybe a little more mental with him. He just doesn't have the hunger and drive. Probably get paid boxing. You probably get paid the same or close to the same regardless. So he kind of went out there and just kind of went through on cruise control. It looked like he was going to turn around and get the knockout, but then he couldn't pull the trigger. Well,
it was reported today that if the numbers are true, he supposedly got paid $2 million.
Yeah, it's great. It just shows that that the money's out there. Unfortunately, UFC don't want to pay it, but a guy can be a UFC champ and go out and get more against a YouTuber. It kind of sucks. And the $2 million that's probably before pay-per-view, I think, too, right?
Yeah.
So he's probably going to make 5, 6, $7 million. Definitely happy, made some money. It's great, and glad Paul's making some money as well.
Yeah, well, there's been a lot of talk afterwards, and especially on Tyron's side, that he wants a rematch. So what do you make of that and kind of their tattoo bet that he would have to get a tattoo saying, "I love Jake Paul"?
Yeah, someone just told me that tattoo thing. I hadn't heard that story. I think that's a terrible idea. I don't know why he would agree to that. But if he did, that's on him. I would never want to get that tattoo, but I also would never agree to that. So he has to get it regardless, or he has to, or there's rematch.
Well, at first it was like in a press conference previously that they both agreed the loser has to get the tattoo of the winner on their body, and it has to be a real tattoo. And then afterwards, Jake said he may give Tyron a rematch if he gets a tattoo, but he has to get it like ASAP.
Yeah, he agreed to get it. I guess he should get it, but I certainly, I wouldn't agree with it. I guess if I did do it, I'd get it, but not a good idea.
Yeah. Well, there's always so much going on, and I follow you on Instagram as well, and it seems like there was a bit of beef between you and Dillon Danis.
Yeah, Dillon Danis is probably the biggest embarrassment in combat sports, but he's just always, a few years ago I beat him with in a grappling match, and then after that, he, like 4 or 5 times he'd call grappling promoters and ask for a rematch. He would call him like at nighttime, and they'd call him back, and he would just, I would agree to do the match, and then he would just ghost him. And so the guy, was a complete clown. And for some reason, in the middle of the night, he decided to DM me saying he wants to fight me. So it's like, sure, I'll fight you anytime. But for sure, if he actually gets the call to do it, he won't do it. He'd call Scott Coker and say, put the match together. I would box him, I'll grapple him, MMA, anywhere he wants. But I have a feeling Dillon won't show up.
So it was just like random. He just randomly DM'd you.
Yeah, randomly. I think it was like 11:30 my time, so probably 2:30 in New York. So he's probably out there. My guess is he has a coke habit. Probably goes out there, gets coked out in the middle of the night, starts feeling brave, like, oh, I'm gonna get payback on Shields. Then he'll wake up in the morning and be like, oh man, what did I do?
Wow. But like you said, if that fight was offered, you would take it right away.
Oh, yeah. I wouldn't need a training camp for him. I'd hop in and fight him, whether it's boxing, grappling, Bellator once, I was kind of retired, but never officially, so I'll still jump out there and fight.
Yeah, anytime, anywhere for Dillon Danis. Mm-hmm. But speaking of Dillon, and his good friend Conor McGregor is kind of tweeting at your good friend Nate Diaz again. What do you make of all that again?
I just think, one, they don't really like each other. They have a grudge. They have the 2 fights where, Nate obviously won the first one, lost the second, even though the second's a little controversial. So I think it just makes sense for that 3rd fight. At some point, they're going to have to fight. They generally don't like each other. The fans want to see it. So I would love to see Nate go out there and beat him up again.
Well, Nate did retweet something that Vicente Luque posted saying that he's interested in fighting Nate and why he's interested in that fight. So do you think that fight should happen?
Which fight?
Nate versus Vicente Luque?
Yeah, I didn't see that tweet, but I mean, that could be an interesting fight. It would be a good fight, but I feel like there's probably bigger fights for Nate right now. His name is just so massive, and maybe I would like to see him back at 55s or a catchweight. Okay. But I mean, ultimately, I'm not the matchmaker, so who knows? That could be a good fight.
But as a good friend of his and knowing him for such a long time, you said you'd want to see him back at 155. Who would you want to see him against?
Dustin Poirier. I mean, obviously Dustin's kind of in line for the title, but I mean, the bigger money fight would be Nate versus Dustin. I mean, yeah. Dustin did that last time with Conor, so who knows? Maybe he'll go out and fight Nate instead. That'd be a huge one for the fans and for them to make money.
Absolutely. And speaking of money fights, another good friend and the other part of the Diaz brothers, Nick Diaz, he's coming back fighting Robbie Lawler in a rematch. What do you make of that?
Man, that's what was it? I think it's almost like 17 years since the first one. That's probably the longest distance between rematch, I would think, especially for a fight that's still relevant. I mean, I think it's exciting. Both those guys are great fighters, been in the game for so long, and it's something the fans want to see. And I would love to see Nick go out there and get back on track.
Now, have you spoken to him at all recently?
A little bit. He was in Vegas for the beginning of his camp, but then he decided Caesar picked him up, brought him back to Stockton to do the camp. So he was planning on training here, so I was going to train with him. But then he headed back to Stockton. So we'll see. Hopefully Caesar got him in control. I'm sure he does.
Yeah, absolutely. And lastly, what would you like to tell all your fans?
Man, just thanks for the support throughout the years. And I'm sure I'll be around the sport for a while. I'm sure you'll be seeing me.